Now you'll notice that the incident that I created this change from is automatically linked to this change, so I could get back to that incident anytime I'd like. One thing I'm going to do immediately is link the same HipChat chat room that I linked to that incident to this change as well, so that all updates and notifications from this change request get posted to the same room, so that I can easily see everything that's happened related to this ADP issue in that chat room. So that's a great way to be able to maximize collaboration within your organization. Now, one thing I want to do here is to show you the workflow on a change, just to illustrate the fact that it is much different than the one we looked at over on the incident. So in this case, I've got a much different set of statuses that I can go through and transitions between them. And in this particular change workflow in this demo system, I've decided, as an admin who set up the system, that there's going to be a single approval needed for this change request. And I've put that approval at the very beginning. Now, you may have approvals in your environment that are at different places and maybe even more than one throughout the life cycle of a change. You might want to have one here at the beginning that would be a business approval, and maybe there's one here after things are planned that would be a CAB approval to move forward, and maybe we'd have another after the fact when I close down and verify that the implementation has been successful. But again, in this case, I've defined this system to have a single approval for demo purposes. So I'll close this out now, and the first thing we need to do then is get this change request approved. Now we have two different ways of doing that. I can approve it right here in the tool, and sometimes you'll have approvers who work in the tool and are licensed JIRA users who are in the system often and want to do their approvals directly in the system, and we can certainly do that. We also have the option of being able to approve or reject by email. That's helpful when your approvers maybe are executives who aren't in the system often or just not licensed JIRA users, so they're able to interact with the approval for an issue by email, as long as they don't need to do any other updates to the system. So in this case, like I said, we will be approving through the tool, and I've got the options to approve or reject at this point. Now, I've set up this workflow so that I'm unable to approve or reject unless I'm in the change manager group in my system. Now, I happen to be in that group, so I'm able to do that. But if I were not, I wouldn't be able to make this transition, and I would have to wait for someone who could appropriately approve this request. So we'll go ahead and begin to work this change. I'll go ahead and assign it to me, and we will begin the workflow process of planning this change. Now, the fields here on this screen, again, are fields that I've defined in my demo system as fields that are important to me for a change request. So I've added things like a request start time. So I'd like to see if we could do this change on Friday. And I've added an environment here so I can say this is in production. And I've added a change reason so I can say this is a fix. And we'll say this is just a normal change. Now, I'd like to be able to add the CIs related to this change to this issue. So I'm going to browse out to my Insight CMDB and find that. So I've got some options here of different types of CIs here in my CMDB. But I know I'm going to look for a server, and I know that it's the intranet web servers A and B that are the ones that support my intranet service where I'm having this ADP link problem. So I'm going to select those to add them to my request. And I'll go ahead and say that my earliest possible start time is tomorrow. And we'll say this is a risk level 5 because it's a simple update to a link on our intranet. And I'll go ahead and plan this change. When I do, I move to planning in progress, and you notice that the configuration items that I added to this request now appear on the change. If I hover over those, we can see details about those, and I can even drill down into them if I'd like to see more details. I'll go ahead and do that in a separate window just to show you what that looks like. Over in the CMDB, we also have an object graph, which is a pictorial representation of the CIs and their relationships to each other. So we see that this internet server is running Windows 2012. It's a production server. It was made by Dell, and it's in Dallas, Texas. And it supports our company intranet site, which is made up of our company internet business service. And then that business service is on those two web servers as well. So that's a really helpful way to be able to find the affected CI in your environment and relate it to a change request or any other type of issue that you'd like to in your system. So I'll go ahead and close out this CMDB window, and we'll return to our change. And we'll go ahead and take the next step. So the next step I've defined here in our change is to complete planning. Now you see, as to do that, I need to provide a scheduled start and stop time here for this change. Now I don't know really when would be a good time to do that. So what I'm going to do is navigate out to our main agent console, where I have some project shortcuts. And here, an admin in this system has defined one of the shortcuts as a link to our forward schedule of changes. Now that's a team calendar, a Confluence team calendar, and I'm going to click on that to show you what that looks like. And you can see that I've got a calendar here that shows some different colored events. And I've defined this calendar in the system to show three different colors. We see green, which are this actual are changes that have been completed. So those green ones are actual dates that a change was completed. The red ones are the changes that have been scheduled but not yet completed, so I can see when those are going to be. And then the gray ones are ones that have been requested but haven't yet been scheduled. So we see here that I've requested this this change happen on Friday. Now I know in our environment we don't make changes during the week. We only do weekends. So I need to do this on a Saturday. And since Saturday the 23rd is open, I'll go ahead and choose that as my date for this. So once I've done my planning in my calendar, I can come back and go ahead and add those dates that I've just selected to my change. So we'll complete planning here by saying that we're going to do this change on Saturday and complete that planning. Now again, at this point in your environment, you might have some sort of other approval to say that you can move forward with this, but we'll go ahead and say that we don't need an approval, and we'll move on to ready for implementation. And then at this point, the change request would sit here waiting for the implementer to do that on Saturday. But since you don't want to wait here with me for days for that to happen, we'll go ahead and do that now. So I'll move this to in progress and pretend that I'm the change implementer here. And then I'll say I've done my work, and I'll make a note that I've updated the URL. I'll just comment internally here because I don't need this shared with any customers or emails sent on that comment. And then we'll say I'm done, and I'll just go ahead and resolve this change all the way on out, and we'll say that we're completed. So now we've updated our intranet with the correct link. So I'll follow this link to our incident back to our incident. And at this point, the incident management process would take over again, and I would verify with my customer that this change that we've implemented in our environment has resolved our issue, and I would go ahead and close out the incident. So I'd like to show you one other thing here. If I go back to my main agent interface here, I've got a link to reporting. So I've got several different kinds of reports here in the system. I've got out of the box a workload report here that shows me how many issues are assigned to who. And as we can see, I'm way overloaded here, and we've got some folks at the bottom of this list that are slacking. So we probably need some management to spread out the work here for us. We've got a report on SLA goals that shows how well we're doing on SLAs, and clearly we're not doing too well here in my demo environment. I hope your environment's doing better than mine. But we can see that we have a time to acceptance here for service requests and for incidents, and we get a percentage for each of those, as well as the time to resolution for both of those types. Now, we could have set up SLAs in the system on anything. We could have had those on problems or change requests or any other kind of issue type that you'd like. We could have also done it against priority. Maybe my incident of higher priority has a different SLA than maybe lower priority ones. Just for this particular demo environment, I've just done a standard SLA against incidents and a separate one against service requests. I've got a satisfaction report here that shows me some feedback from my customers. Now, upon completion, resolution of an issue in the system can be set up to send out a satisfaction survey with a configurable question that you can configure in your environment, and then customers can respond to those. And that's what's happened here. We've sent out surveys, and customers have responded and apparently have been very happy, even though we haven't met any of our SLAs. We've got some reports on knowledge-based article usage and effectiveness, as well as some custom reports down here on created versus resolved and SLAs met versus breached and so on and so forth.